Hey everyone, thanks for watching, and today I'm going to go over an introduction to a module that I just got off of eBay, module M1 Blizzard Pass. Now, for those of you who have seen some of my other stuff, you know that I love these old school Dungeons & Dragons modules, and I'm really excited to go into this one. I've not played it through yet. That playthrough is going to be coming later. Today I just want to give an introduction about this particular module, why I'm interested in it, and why it's different than other modules. So as I said, this is module M1, Blizzard Pass by David Cook. This came out in 1983, and it is it's a module for thieves, levels 1 through 3, and it's somewhat unique in that it's a solo module. There was a few original solo modules that were made back in the 80s, but this one has a gimmick, and the gimmick is up here in the upper right-hand corner. It is an invisible ink module. So the way that this works is that you, similar to a choose your own adventure, you would decide what your character is going to be doing, and then there's different passages that appear blank. But if you have the special highlighter, you highlight the passage that you chose and it reveals the outcome of what your decision was. And so that's kind of the gimmick for this module. I'll get to the gimmick, how it works, and how you can still look at these entries that are blank today. But first I want to show a little bit of an overview of the module itself. Now, my module is not in great condition. I got it off eBay for about 20 bucks. They're still pretty cheap if you can find them, especially if they're not in great condition. And then there's some better ones, obviously, that are in better condition that cost a little bit more. So the module has a map here that gives you some information. In the module itself, it tells you that what you see on the map is what's described to you, so you're not spoiling anything by looking at the map. There's no secret doors that are revealed just by looking at the map. But the map's pretty great across the board there. And then the module itself is right here. The module starts off with a little bit of an introduction of what this module is. It talks about how to play a solo adventure with a silly little example here. And then the majority of the booklet is the solo adventure here as you go through. This is what it looks like. It'll give you the prompt, and then it'll give you a few boxes for you to choose. And if you're able to reveal that hidden ink, it'll tell you where to go, what to read, and kind of the outcome with some illustrations in it. Now, a lot of people remember this module as a solo module, but they don't know that this actually kind of has a regular adventure in it as well. So if I go here, part 3 is Blizzard Pass for group play. So this actually is kind of a two-part module. The biggest part of this module is built for solo play, but there's the second part that's just a regular module for Dungeons and Dragons. Not only that, but the two modules are different. So what you experience when you play solo is different than what the group play module is. The one issue with this is that the group play module is relatively short. It's pretty small. There's just some information there, some information here about the actual caverns that you're in, and then by the end of it, it is pretty much complete. And then at the very back is a pre-rolled character for the solo adventure. What they do is they give you the character, the thief, kind of all the information you need to know about the thief so that you can get started playing right away. And as you can see, my copy here, the thief's name was Sagrach. And of course, someone wrote that in nice heavy permanent marker so that it is visible on the backside right there. But hey, I love getting gaming materials that are nicely used because it gives a little bit of history of what you're looking at. Now, one thing I want to note about solo pre-rolled characters is in the beginning of the module, it says that your character should be level 1 or level 2 or level 3. But if they're level 1, they need to have max health and a constitution bonus. It specifically lays that out. So if you look here at the hit points for this particular thief, this thief has 7 hit points, and that's not normally the case. Normally, when you roll up a thief for basic D&D, I believe their hit die is a D6, but you have to roll that to determine how much health or hit points you're at level 1. So it's rare that you would start at 6. And then on top of that, it's very rare that if you're a thief and you rolled an 18, you would put that 18 in constitution. But being that it's a solo module, they call out specifically in this module that you're going to need some health, otherwise you're probably going to die. So before we actually get into how this all works, I want to talk a little bit about the invisible ink in this module. This I think was really interesting. So when I first got the module in my hands, the first thing I did was I started researching, okay, how can I see the hidden ink, the invisible ink in these text boxes? And there was a lot of really good suggestions online and some bad ones. And one of the interesting ones that I found was that the somebody suggested that there are companies that still have pens that do the invisible ink thing, and they're the same companies that did the invisible ink thing from the 80s. So they hypothesized that if you purchased some of those invisible ink markers, they would still work with these particular text boxes. I have not tried that, but I'd be curious to see if somebody else has done that. Somebody else suggested that you can just use a regular highlighter and highlight the text box and the invisible ink will appear. And that, let me tell you, will not work at all. Do not do that. In fact, not only will it not show, but it's actually going to cover up the text, so when you do read it, you won't be able to see what's underneath the highlighter. So I don't know if I can get a good view here. Sorry, let's see. But that's my highlighted text, and it's not actually showing anything. All right? And I can contrast that with, let me see if I can find a good one. Some of these boxes are used for invisible ink, and if I contrast that with this one, it's really hard to tell on camera, but you can see some letters there with the original invisible ink that are being revealed. So the question remained for me. Highlighter didn't work. I didn't really want to order these old invisible ink markers. The question remained, how can you read these text boxes and reveal the ink behind them? And the answer is actually a black light. It's pretty simple. So if you use a black light, I got a little black light flashlight here, and oh boy, this is going to be hard to see on the camera. But if you use a black light, you should be able to see the text revealed in the hidden, in the invisible ink. Let's see if I get closer, I can get it to work. That's close. You can kind of see there. Okay. So you can see the words revealing themselves on the camera there. I don't think you can actually read them on the camera, but I can read them in person just fine. And I do want to show the highlighter here that I highlighted the section of box 2 here. And yeah, it didn't work. The highlighter is actually over the invisible ink, and so you can't actually read those words anymore. But yeah, the highlighter works just, or the black light works just fine, and so I can read these words just fine with my black light flashlight. And that's how I intend to do my playthrough with this, is just using my black light flashlight as I go through the module. There is one more thing that I want to call out. There is a very, I'll put it up on the screen, a very old website. It's an Angelfire website from, has to have been 20 to 30 years ago maybe, and it's called the Blizzard Pass Project. Now, this website, 20 or 30 years ago, what they did is they got volunteers of people who had purchased this adventure and had played it. And they realized, hey, these highlighters are out of ink. They don't work anymore. And as an aside, I also saw reviews of this product that said that the highlighters would often run out of ink before somebody finished the module. So imagine that being back in the 80s or 90s, trying to play through the module, but then running out of ink and not being able to finish. That would kind of be a bummer. But anyways, the Blizzard Pass Project was a crowd-funded project. There was no Kickstarter back in the 90s and early 2000s of internet. But what they did is they reached out and tried to get volunteers who owned this module, and they tried to get those volunteers to record what each of these boxes said, and they were successful. They actually finished and completed the Blizzard Pass project 20, 30 years ago, and you can go and actually view all of the hidden texts from all these boxes on that website. So I'll put the link down below so you could check that out if you want. It's hilarious. It's so late 90s as far as the website. There's a little box ticker that shows you how many visitors had been to that website, and when I went to it, there was 194, and so I'd be curious to see where it is now. But yeah, very cool. I'll put the link in there so you can take a look. So I just wanted to go over briefly kind of what the how the adventure is laid out. Again, no spoilers yet. They have a really silly, they have some introduction up here, and then they have a really silly way of practicing the adventure with the boxes. So here's the passage. It says, "Despite the fact that you have a lot of work to complete before morning, you have been reading the introduction to Blizzard Pass. It is now very late and well past your normal bedtime. Will you continue to read?" That's box 2. "Go to sleep?" That's box 3. "Or do your work?" That's box 4. So for example, if I choose do my work, I turn on my black light and I read, "You get up and do your work. By the time you finish, it is late, so you go to sleep. The next morning, you awake refreshed and well rested. In addition, your work is finished and you have time to play the adventure." So it's a silly example, but it shows how you're going to be reading a prompt and then responding within a specific box. Now, the last thing I want to go over just a little bit is I want to give you an example of what type of adventure this is. And this is really important, and I'm getting close to the spoiler part here. This adventure, if you remember the old Choose Your Own Adventure books, this adventure really embodies that from what I can tell. Again, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to read the first choice that you get offered here. And again, these are spoilers coming up here, but I want you to get a sense of what type of adventure this is, because your choices are drastic and can affect the outcome of your character in very, very significant ways. So I'm going to pull up the very first adventure example choice. The very first choice you get to choose here. It goes through a page or two of exposition, kind of showing you, hey, here's what's happening. And then you get to this paragraph here that says, when you awake, the caravan is still moving. You have no idea of how long you have slept. You are hungry, thirsty, and your muscles are cramped. By now, it must be late afternoon. Will you stay hidden until dusk? That's box 2. Or jump out of the sledge now? That's box 3. So at this point, these are spoilers. If you want to go in completely spoiler-free, stop the video. If you're interested in running this, though, I do suggest you at least listen to these first 2 boxes, because they are important to show you what the consequences of your choices are. So when I was first reading this, said, well, my character is a thief. I'm going to wait until dusk so I can potentially hide in the shadows. So that's box 2. So I'll read box 2 here. So it says, as it grows dark, you crawl from your hiding place and climb off the sledge. When your feet touch the snow, you feel a sharp jab in your back. Ho, varlet, says a rough voice. Where do you come from? You turn around and see 2 men mounted on ponies. They wear heavy furs and leather armor. One holds a lance level with your chest. The other, a grizzled fellow with a black beard, says, you'd better come along with us. Go to entry 4. Now that's important for 2 reasons. Number 1, in a regular role-playing game, I would probably have the opportunity to hide in the shadows because it's dusk. I just hopped out of this sledge, and I would say, well, I'm going to hide. They don't let you do that. They just kind of continue with the plot and the exposition and move you along. In this case, I don't know if it's good or bad. I haven't read part 4 yet, but I'll see you later. Now, I did not choose to jump out of the sledge now. That would be box 3, but let's pretend that I did. Let's find out what happens. You climb out of your hiding place and see several mounted men riding several yards behind the sledge. One of them points his spear in your direction and cries, "There he is! Let's get him!" Several of the mounted men gallop up, holding their weapons ready. Though you try to run, the riders quickly surround you. And I apologize, it's kind of hard to read over this revealed ink here. As they circle, you recognize them as guards from the village. Finally, the leader lashes out with his club and hits you in the head. You awaken in a small, well-guarded cell. Though you look for a way to escape, you do not find one. Soon the guards drag you outside to a scaffold and hang you. Your character is dead. You may roll a new character and start again. So there you go. You can see that the exposition is going to continue forward. There's not going to be a ton of role playing as far as using your character's abilities after each of these boxes, and there are apparently entries that are just going to kill you outright. So I do want you to know that going into this module. It's again similar to those choose your own adventure stories from back in the day where different entries would just kill you outright. I did want to point out one more thing though. There are some boxes here for some type of gameplay where like you cover up each one based on your level of your character, and it makes things a little bit easier or harder for your character based on how high of a level they are. So it's not just a choose your own adventure. There is some gameplay, it appears, but again, it looks like there's going to be a lot of just kind of pushing you forward based on a decision and not necessarily based on your character's information. So that's the introduction to Blizzard Pass M1 and a solo adventure for thieves. Levels 1 through 3, the Invisible Ink module. Remember, Blacklight is going to allow you to play this module as it is written, and I'll do my playthrough later. So thanks for watching. Have a good day.